Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Autumn Sundance Encore Azalea. So this is Autumn Sundance Encore Azalea. This is an evergreen shrub. It is a reblooming variety. I am actually filming this in December. These are in a house, and so that's added some warmth to it. But this is December when these are flowering. Autumn Sundance is a medium pink, almost dark pink flowering variety. They're single flowers, about 3 inches across. This variety will actually, the foliage will actually turn kind of a reddish color in the wintertime if they're outside. They're in a little bit of heated, above normal temperatures in this unheated house is keeping them green. They also have a red stem, and I think that red stem is super interesting on this variety as well. This one will get slightly wider than tall. I think it's easily maintainable around between 3 and 4 feet in height and probably 4 feet in width. So keep that in mind if you want one that's slightly wider and domed. Autumn Sundance would be a good choice. Again, this is December and they're in flower. These are obviously repeat flowering azaleas. These, once they settle in to your landscape, they'll kind of pick a pattern. That's what I've learned about Encore azaleas. Some of them will bloom 2 times a year, some of them will bloom 3 times a year. A lot of it probably depends on heat, cold, what zone you're in, lots of different things going on there that determines when they're flowering. If you get several different varieties, then you can have almost ongoing flowering with these Encore azaleas. They'll almost all bloom in that springtime and that fall time, and then different timings during their summer flowering. These are going to be hardy in zone 6 to 10. Some of the Encores are hardy in 7 to 10. Some of them are hardy in 6 to 10. So if you're in zone 6, be sure to look for that particular, particular thing. But Sundance would be a great choice up in zone 6. Encore azaleas require a little more sun than traditional azaleas. We've always thought of traditional evergreen azaleas as part shade or shade plants. These need 4 to 6 hours of direct sun. They perform much better, stay much fuller, and bloom a lot more with a little more sun than traditional azaleas. So these low doming evergreen shrubs like Autumn Sundance work great in groups of 3s or 5s or 7s to make a big statement. They also look great, just one of a kind, in a foundation planting. They work great as container plants. Those of you in zones 8, 9, and 10 can use these as container plants, and I find they bloom really well in containers as well. So again, mass planted, one of a kind, mixed with several different colors. Autumn lily would look fantastic with this. It's another single with a white flower that's a similar size to this one, similar growth habit. I think they would look great together if you used 2 autumn lilies and 3 of these Autumn Sundance behind it, something like that. Site selection is definitely important with azaleas. I've already talked about these needing a little more sun than traditional azaleas. The other thing they need is to not be in an area that stays abnormally wet. And so if you have a spot that you think stays wet between rains and waterings, it's probably not a great idea for an azalea. If you have a spot that, again, drains well, that's great. I always mound my azaleas up just a little bit in our clay soils here in central North Carolina. That's always worked well for me. As long as they dry out between waterings, they're pretty happy. Not a heck of a lot of maintenance to do on these. They can be pruned heavily after their spring flowering if you need to reset them, or pretty much any time you have a limb that's sticking up above the rest, that can be pruned off any day you wanted to do that. Not an issue. I will fertilize these in the late winter. Some people say to wait until after spring flowering on azaleas to fertilize them. I've never seen any difference, and I just use an organic fertilizer in late February, early March. Works well for me. Pest-wise, azaleas are susceptible to lace bugs. It's a little insect that will attach itself to the back of the leaf. I normally only see them in areas where there's just no air movement around the plant whatsoever, or typically a stressed plant. So if you're keeping these watered when it's abnormally dry, you're fertilizing them in the late winter, you're keeping them mulched, you're keeping the weeds away from them, I think that's a plant that can fight off lace bug issues. I don't think you'll have a big problem with that. And then deer do eat azaleas. And so if you have deer issues, you either want to use these up around a foundation or as a container plant, not out in the general landscape where the deer can get to them. But Autumn Sundance is one of my absolute favorites. 3-inch pink flowers. They match almost anything, any place you'd want to put them. Love the winter red foliage on this one. Love the red stems on this one. Autumn Sundance Encore Azalea. Thanks for watching.